When we talk about life, relationships, and the dance between men and women, there are truths that must be addressed with clarity and conviction. Too often, women are crying out for positions that men never step into, not because men can't, but because many don't even try. And when men fail to step into those roles, families crumble, relationships weaken, and destinies are delayed. But when men rise to the occasion, when men stand where they are called to stand, everything be to line the way it was intended. So let's talk about 5 positions women beg for but men never try. And let us take this to heart with urgency and with courage. The first position women long for is the position of leadership through service. Not dictatorship, not domination, but leadership that shows direction, clarity, and sacrifice. A woman doesn't want to be dragged through confusion. She wants to know that the man beside her has a vision for where they are going. She's not asking for perfection, but she is begging for a man who will shoulder responsibility, who will take initiative, who will serve with humility while leading with confidence. Too many men shrink back, leaving the burden of direction on the woman's shoulders, and then wonder why she is weary. A man must step into the space of spiritual and emotional leadership so that his household doesn't wander aimlessly. The second position women beg for is protection. A woman's heart longs to feel safe, not just safe from physical harm, but safe emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. When a man guards her heart, her dreams, and her dignity, she blossoms with strength and confidence. But when she feels exposed, left alone to fight battles that were never hers to fight, her soul grows tired. She wants to know that if the storms come, if the winds blow, if the world presses hard, the man beside her will not fold, will not abandon, but will shield her with love and cover her with strength. This isn't about being perfect, but about standing up when life gets hard and saying, I will not let you walk through this alone. The third position women beg for is pursuit. Long after the wedding day, long after the first date, a woman still wants to be pursued. She doesn't want to feel like she was won once and then forgotten. She craves a man who will still look at her with wonder, who will still reach for her hand, who will still fight for her attention as if she is the most valuable treasure he has. Too many men stop trying once they feel secure in the relationship. They let routine replace romance and duty replace desire. But when a man keeps pursuing, he keeps the fire alive, and he reminds her every day that she is worth chasing. The fourth position women beg for is communication. She doesn't just want words. She wants presence. She wants a man who can share his heart, express his fears, reveal his dreams, and listen with care. Silence can be louder than noise when it leaves a woman feeling unseen and unheard. Communication is not just about talking, but about connecting. It's about letting her know she matters to be included in the inner chambers of his mind and spirit. Men often retreat to their caves, leaving their women standing outside, begging for entry. But when a man chooses to open up, when he shares instead of hiding, he builds intimacy that no outside force can break. The fifth position women beg for is consistency. She doesn't want a man who shows up one day and disappears the next. She doesn't want love that is hot today and cold tomorrow. She longs for a steady presence, a predictable reliability, a faithfulness that she can lean on. Women know that life is uncertain. Challenges will come and seasons will change. But if a man can remain consistent in his character, in his commitment, and in his care, she can rest her heart in peace. Consistency may not sound glamorous, but it is the bedrock of trust, and trust is the oxygen of any relationship. These are the positions women beg for, but men too often never try. Leadership with service, protection, pursuit, communication, and consistency. These are not impossible roles, they are choices. Every man has the power to rise up, to step in, to try. And when he does, he not only transforms his relationship, but he transforms himself, his family, and his future. It's time to stop excusing absence and start embracing presence. Because when a man steps into these positions, he creates an atmosphere where love can flourish, where respect can deepen, and where life can thrive the way it was designed to. When we speak of leadership through service, we are talking about a position that carries both weight and beauty, responsibility and reward. It is not about standing above someone with power. It is about standing before someone with vision and beside them with humility. Leadership through service is the call for a man to rise and set direction, to create stability, and to ensure those who look to him do not walk in confusion. Many women cry out for this because the very foundation of trust in a relationship, without it, everything else crumbles, because a home cannot stand when the man who is supposed to guide it refuses to step into his role. A woman doesn't want a tyrant. She doesn't want a dictator. And she doesn't want someone who barks orders. What she desires, often silently and with deep yearning, is a man who will take initiative, who will not hide when life gets hard, and who will not push all responsibility onto her shoulders while he retreats into passivity. Leadership is not about perfection, it is about direction. A woman wants to know that even a man she loves doesn't have all the answers. He is willing to seek them. She wants to know that even if storms come, he won't abandon the wheel, leaving her to steer in chaos. Too often, men make the mistake of confusing leadership with control. They think to lead is to dominate, to dictate, to decide everything without regard for the heart and perspective of their partner. But that is not true leadership. Leadership through service means you are willing to listen before you decide. You are willing to sacrifice before you demand, and you are willing to carry weight before you expect her to carry it. That is the kind of leadership that inspires loyalty, trust, and admiration. That is the kind of leadership that makes a woman feel secure. When a man refuses to lead, a woman often feels forced to step into a role. She was never designed to carry alone. She becomes the one making every decision, directing every step, holding everything together while silently longing for someone to share the load. It is not weakness on her part to want that. It is part of the way relationships were designed. And yet so many men abdicate their responsibility, leaving their wives or partners tired, anxious, and drained because they are carrying what was supposed to be shared. True leadership does not mean she has no say, but it means he carries the burden of responsibility with her and for her, guiding with love, not force. To lead through service also means to be the first to sacrifice. Too many men want the crown without the cross, the honor without the humility. But leadership is about laying down your pride and your comfort for the sake of those who look to you. A woman doesn't beg for a perfect man. She begs for a man who is willing to get uncomfortable to ensure her well-being, a man who will stand in the gap when trouble comes. Service in leadership shows itself in the small things, listening when you'd rather tune out, working when you'd rather rest, encouraging when you'd rather criticize. It shows itself in the big things, making decisions that secure the future, protecting the household from chaos, and giving direction when the path ahead is unclear. Another dimension of leadership through service is spiritual guidance. A woman yearns for a man who can point her something greater, who can lead not just in finances or decisions, but in faith. She wants to know that when life gets dark, he will be the one to remind her of light. She longs for a man who will not only fight battles in the physical, but will also cover her in prayer, who will intercede for their family, who will stand before God on behalf of his home. Too often, women are left begging for this because men see spirituality as optional, when in reality, it is the compass that keeps everything else aligned. When a man takes the position of spiritual leadership seriously, his home finds peace, because even when everything else shakes, there is an anchor. He moves. It is also important to understand that leadership through service is not about being flawless. Women are not looking for men who never make mistakes. They are looking for men who don't run from mistakes. They want a man who will admit when he is wrong, who will apologize when he fails, and who will correct himself when he has gone astray. That humility is leadership in its purest form. It shows her that she can trust his heart, even when his actions fall short. It shows her that he values growth over pride, that willingness to serve by being honest about weakness creates safety and strengthens the bond. A woman begging for leadership is really begging for stability. She wants to rest knowing that someone is watching over her, that someone is considering tomorrow while she deals with today, that someone is willing to stand in the gap when the storms of life come. She wants to know that if her strength runs low, his strength will rise. And when a man decides to step into this role, not as a tyrant, but as a servant leader, he creates an environment where she can thrive, where the relationship can grow, and where the future can flourish. Leadership through service is not a position for the faint of heart. But it is one of the most rewarding positions a man can hold, because when he takes it seriously, it changes everything around him. Protection is not just about physical strength, and it is not just about standing in the way of danger. When someone threatens harm, protection goes much deeper than that. A woman longs for protection in every sense of the word. Physical, yes, but also emotional, mental, and spiritual. She wants to feel safe in the presence of the man she loves. She wants to know that with him, she doesn't have to look over shoulder. She doesn't have to wonder if her vulnerabilities will be used against her. And she doesn't have to question whether we'll abandon her in her moments of weakness. Protection is about creating a shield that allows her to breathe, to rest, and to trust. Without that, she feels exposed, fragile, and weary, and she begins to carry fears she was never to carry alone. When a man protects, he is not only saying, I will stand in the way of danger for you, but also, I will not be the danger you have to fear. A woman should never feel like she has to defend herself from the very person who promised to love her. Too many women cry out silently because the one who was supposed to protect them became the one who wounded them. But true protection is gentle. It is strength wrapped in tenderness. It is the ability to hold firm when the world is harsh and to be soft when her heart is fragile. It is the courage to say, I am here and I am not going anywhere, even when life becomes difficult. Protection also shows up in how a man guards her dignity. A woman doesn't just want someone who will shield her from external threats, but someone who will shield her reputation, her character, and her worth. He doesn't tear her down with his words in public or private. Instead, he covers her with honor. He doesn't expose her weaknesses to others. Instead, he defends her even when she is not in the room. That is protection. A woman is begging, often without words, for a man who will not strip her of confidence, but who will instead build her up so she can walk tall. He moves, knowing that she has someone who values her deeply. There is also the protection of her emotions. Women carry so much in their hearts: dreams, fears, insecurities, and unspoken burdens. She is not asking for a man to fix all of them, but she longs for him to create a safe space where she can let them out without judgment. Emotional protection means he listens without dismissing, he cares without mocking, and he provides stability without making her feel small. It is the ability to sit in her pain and assure her that she is not alone. Many women beg for this kind of protection because too often men shut down, retreat, or grow impatient when emotions rise. But when a man protects emotionally, he gives her the freedom to be fully herself. And that freedom strengthens the bond between them. Mental protection is another layer that is often overlooked. A woman wants to know that her mind is safe with him. That means he doesn't manipulate her thoughts. He doesn't play games with her trust. And he doesn't gaslight her into questioning her reality. Instead, he brings clarity where there is confusion, and he speaks truth where there are lies. He helps guard her mind from stress, chaos, and unnecessary burdens by sharing the load and offering support. Protection in this area means he respects her intelligence, values perspective, and never belittles her ideas. He becomes a place where her mind can rest, not a place where it must constantly fight. Then there is spiritual protection, perhaps the most important of all. A woman longs for a man who will stand in the gap for her before God, who will pray for her when she is too weary to pray for herself. Moves He who will cover their home with spiritual strength. She wants to know that when darkness tries to creep in, the man by her side will not shrink back, but will fight with faith. Spiritual protection does not mean he has all the answers. It means he trusts the one who does and leads her to that trust as well. This kind of covering brings peace into a home because even when life feels unstable, she knows there is an anchor holding them steady. Protection also includes consistency. It is not protection if it comes only, it is convenient. A woman begs for a man who will not pick and choose when he wants to protect her. She wants to know that whether times are good or bad, whether she is at her best or struggling at her worst, he will still stand as her shield. Inconsistency leaves her feeling abandoned. Consistency allows her to rest. And when she can rest in his presence, her love deepens, her trust strengthens, and her heart feels secure. A man who chooses to protect is not weak. He is strong in the truest sense. It takes courage to stand guard, to be patient, to be gentle, to fight for someone else's peace, even when your own life feels heavy. But that is what love demands. That is what leadership through service looks like in practice. Women are not begging for knights in shining armor. They are begging for men who will stand up, who will be reliable, and who will never let them face life's storms alone. True protection is not glamorous. It is steady, it is faithful, and it is powerful in its quiet consistency. And when a man provides that, he doesn't just protect her. He gives her the freedom to flourish in ways she could not if she felt unguarded and unsafe. Pursuit is one of the deepest longings of a woman's heart. It is often one of the most neglected responsibilities of a man. Before the vows are spoken, before the relationship becomes comfortable, pursuit is usually natural. A man invests time, energy, creativity, and effort to win her heart. He calls often, he plans surprises, he speaks words of admiration, he notices the small details, and he goes out of his way to make her feel chosen. But for many women, the pursuit stops once the relationship feels secure, once the title of girlfriend or wife is achieved. The energy that was once poured into win, her heart diminishes, leaving her with the question, am I still worth fighting for? This is why so many women beg silently and sometimes openly for men to keep pursuing them long after the relationship has begun. Pursuit is not a one-time event. It is a continual expression that says, you matter to me today as much as you did yesterday, and even more than you did before. It is a reminder that she is still a priority, that she is not being taken for granted, and that her heart is still worth the chase. Too many men make the mistake of thinking pursuit ends once commitment begins, but that is when pursuit matters the most, because in the comfort of daily life, love can easily become routine, and routine can easily drain passion. A woman longs to feel like her presence is not assumed, but celebrated, that her worth is not forgotten, but magnified with time. Pursuit requires intentionality. He moves. It doesn't have to be extravagant. It has to be consistent. A simple text during the day to say, "She is on your mind," an unexpected compliment, a planned date night, a note left on the counter. These are the small acts that keep pursuit alive. Women are not necessarily asking for grand gestures every day, but they are asking for effort that shows she is still the one. It is the energy behind the action that matters most. It tells her, "You are not just here with me. You are wanted by me." That distinction makes all the difference in her heart. Pursuit also means noticing. A woman longs for a man who pays attention to her needs, her moods, her passions, and her struggles. She wants to feel seen, not overlooked. It could be as simple as noticing when she is tired and offering to ease her load, or recognizing when she has a new dream and encouraging her to chase it. Pursuit means you do not stop learning her even after years together. She is growing, changing, and evolving, and pursuit says, "I am committed to discovering who you are becoming, not just who you were when I first met you." That continual discovery keeps love alive and prevents it from becoming stagnant. Another dimension of pursuit is affection. Many women beg for affection because a language that speaks directly to their souls. Pursuit involves touch, words, and actions that communicate beloved routine. Holding her hand when walking together, hugging her after a long day, looking into her eyes when she speaks. These small acts reaffirm that she is still cherished. When men neglect affection, women often begin to feel distant and question their place in his heart. But when men remain intentional in their pursuit through affection, it reassures her daily that she is loved. Pursuit is also about effort in communication. Too often men become silent, leaving women to wonder what is on their minds. But pursuit means sharing your thoughts, engaging in meaningful conversations, and drawing her into your world. It's not just about listening to her, but also inviting her into your dreams, your fears, and your plans. That kind of connection shows her that you value as more than just a companion. You value her as your partner. Pursuit through communication keeps intimacy alive because intimacy is built not only in physical closeness, but in the sharing of hearts. There is also pursuit in romance. Romance doesn't have to fade just because time passes. A woman longs for a man who will still plan a dinner, light a candle, or take her somewhere unexpected just to see her smile. Romance is not about money, it's about thoughtfulness. It's about effort. It's about saying, I want to make today special for you because you are special to me. Woo, women beg for this because it tells them they are not just part of a man's life. They are the highlight of it. Perhaps the deepest layer of pursuit is faithfulness. A woman wants to be pursued not just with words and actions, but with loyalty. She wants to know that he has eyes only for her, that he is not dividing his attention, and that his pursuit is consistent. Faithfulness in pursuit means guarding your heart against distractions, remaining true in both presence and absence, and continually choosing her above all others. This is pursuit that goes beyond the surface. It is pursuit that secures her heart in trust. When a man chooses to pursue consistently, he creates a relationship where passion does not die with time, but grows deeper with it. He communicates that she is not just someone he won once, but someone he chooses every single day. And when a woman feels pursued, she responds with even greater love, respect, and loyalty. Pursuit creates a cycle where love feeds love, trust feeds trust, and passion feeds passion. It is not about perfection, but about effort that speaks louder than excuses. Every woman longs to be pursued because pursuit is a sign of value. It is the continual reminder that she is still worth the fight, still worth the energy, still worth the attention. When a man embraces pursuit as a lifelong posture rather than a temporary effort, he builds a relationship that does not merely survive, but thrives. Pursuit is not just the beginning of love, it is the fuel that keeps love alive. Communication is one of the most powerful connectors in any relationship. Yet it is also one of the most neglected. He moves. Women often beg for communication, not because they want endless conversations, but because communication tells them they matter, that they are seen, and that they are heard. When a man communicates with openness and intention, he creates a bond that goes deeper than words. But when he chooses silence, withdrawal, or distance, he leaves her standing outside the walls of his heart, knocking and hoping to be let in. A woman doesn't need a man who always knows what to say, but she longs for a man who is willing to try, who is willing to open his mouth, share his mind, and reveal his heart. That is what brings intimacy, and that is what strengthens trust. Communication is not just about talking. It is about connecting. A woman doesn't want to be flooded with empty words. She wants substance. He moves. She wants to what he's dreaming, what he's struggling with. He shouts. She doesn't want to guess what's going on in his head. She wants to be invited in. Too often men retreat into silence, believing that keeping things to themselves is strength. But silence can be louder than anything spoken. Silence tells her she is not important enough to know what is going on. Silence tells her she is being kept at a distance. And silence breeds insecurity. When a man chooses to communicate, he is saying, I trust you with me. I trust you with my thoughts, my fears, my ideas, and my vulnerabilities. That trust is the soil in which intimacy grows. Listening is a vital part of communication. Women only beg for words. They beg for presence. They long for a man who will put down distractions, who will make eye contact, who will lean in and truly hear. Listening communicates value. It says, your voice matters, your feelings matter, your perspective matters. Too many men make the mistake of thinking listening is just waiting for their turn to respond, but real listening is about absorbing what she is saying, reflecting on it, and responding with care. It's about giving her the confidence that when she speaks, she won't be dismissed, ignored, or trivialized. Listening is one of the greatest forms of love because it requires sacrifice. It requires time, attention, and humility. Communication is also about honesty. A woman doesn't want polished lies or half-truths. She wants transparency. Even when the truth is uncomfortable, she would rather have honesty than secrecy. Honesty builds trust, while dishonesty slowly erodes it until the foundation of the relationship begins to crack. When a man communicates honestly, even about his weaknesses, he proves himself trustworthy. He shows that he values the relationship enough to be real, even if it means exposing his flaws. Women beg for this because they want to know that what they see is what they get, that the words being spoken align with the life being lived. Another dimension of communication is affirmation. A woman longs to hear that she is loved, appreciated, and valued. She wants to hear that she is beautiful, that her efforts are noticed, that her presence makes a difference. Too many men assume that once they have expressed love in the beginning, it never needs to be repeated. But love unspoken begins to feel like love forgotten. Words of affirmation are fuel to a woman's heart. They give her confidence They give her peace, and they remind her of her place in his life. A man who communicates love consistently keeps the fire of connection alive, while a man who withholds affirmation leaves his partner starving for validation. Communication also means sharing vision. A woman doesn't walk blindly into the future. She wants to know what he is thinking about tomorrow, what dreams he is chasing, and what direction he believes the relationship or family should take. She wants to know that he has thought beyond today. When a man communicates his vision, even if it's not perfect or fully figured out, it gives her something to hold on to. It lets her know that he is thinking not only at himself, but of them. This shared vision builds unity because it assures her that they are moving forward together, not drifting apart in separate directions. It's important to recognize that communication is not always verbal. A man communicates through his actions as well as his words. When he is consistent, attentive, and thoughtful, his actions speak volumes. But when his actions contradict his words, confusion arises. That is why integrity in communication is critical. Words and deeds must align. A woman begs for this alignment because it gives her stability. It reassures her that what he says can be trusted because it is reflected in what he does. Conflict is another area where communication is vital. Many men shut down during conflict, leaving women feeling isolated and unresolved. But communication during conflict is what prevents wounds from becoming scars. It is not about shouting or proving a point. It is about seeking understanding and finding resolution. A woman doesn't expect a man to agree with her on everything, but she expects him to engage, to talk it through, and to seek peace instead of avoiding the issue. When a man communicates, even in tension, he shows her that the relationship is more important than his pride. Ultimately, communication is about intimacy, and intimacy is what women crave most. Intimacy is not just physical closeness, but emotional and spiritual connection. He moves. It is built through shared conversations, vulnerable admissions, and deep listening. It is the bond that makes two people feel like they are truly one. Women beg for communication because without it, intimacy dies. Without it, she feels disconnected, even if they live under the same roof. With it, she feels secure, cherished, and united with the man she loves. When a man chooses to communicate consistently, honestly, and attentively, he builds a relationship where trust flourishes, where love deepens, and where both hearts can rest. Communication is not about talking more. It is about connecting deeper. It is the bridge between two souls. And without it, the distance grows. But with it, the bond strengthens in ways none else can replicate.